Welcome to the April Stamps by Judith Project of the Month video. What we're going to be doing this month is something maybe a little more creative. We're going to use our stamps as paintbrushes and artistic tools as well as stamping. So we're going to start off, we're going to make this card right here. What we need to do is start off by cutting out the shape of a paper. This is creating a stencil for the vase. For this one I cut a little bit of a slope and a little bit of a lip, so then I can create that kind of look, a vase. And what I'm going to do is put it down on my paper, actually turn my paper this way, and I'm going to take this leaf stamp, this fade out leaf stamp, and I'm going to start off with a soft Sea Mist green ink pad. What I'm going to do is use this just like it's a paintbrush and just fill in my vase shape, twisting and turning the leaf so I get kind of a random pattern. Okay, fill it in. There, I filled it in once. And what I'm going to do, put this back just a little bit. I'm going to grab a Hunter green ink pad and add a few dark leaves just to give it a little variety. Stamp another one a couple times, get some fades in there. Okay, so I have that. Then what you do is you take your stencil away and there's your vase shape. We'll set the stencil aside. Then the next stamp I'm going to use is this bold poppy stamp, and I'm going to use a rainbow ink pad. I have my rainbow ink pad. I'm going to snap it together so I have my colors together, and then I'm going to take and stamp it more than one time. So I get kind of almost like a mum. And we'll do another one down there. So I have that. Right. And then I'm going to go back to my Hunter green ink and my fade out leaf. Take and put one there. Oops, I forgot to do one thing. Go back to my rainbow pad and my poppy, and I wanted one down here. Here we go. Now I can grab my fade out leaf again and put some right there and right there. And then I'm going to take, this is a stickweed in Hunter green ink, and I want to create some stems coming out of my vase a little bit. So I'm going to take another piece of paper and cover up my vase and put a few stickweeds coming out of here. Just a couple of them. And then here comes the fun part. I'm going to take a fine line pilot pen. Get it from any office supply store, and I'm going to take and just trace the edge of it. And what I'm doing is I'm drawing a double line. So I put one line down and then I go next to it and draw another one. So I'm going to go around my leaf and put a vein in the middle of my leaf with some loops. Nothing too difficult to do. Around my leaf, vein in the middle, some loops to create the veins of the leaf. And we'll have these online so you can see the finished cards up close. So I have that. Go across the top. I'm going to just put a few stems, and then I'm going to take and just put a few what you call petals into the flowers. Basically what I'm doing is this at the bottom of the flowers. Nothing too difficult. little zigzaggy pattern. I did that. And then just to give a little bit more of a base to my flowers, I'm taking a green Tombow marker and putting some green in there. And then I'm going to go back to my pen and just outline that a little bit as well. And then I'm going to take my soft gray marker, like we do a lot, and I'm going to outline my vase. Put a little bit of gray in there to pop everything. Just do that. And then to decorate it a little bit, I'm going to go back to my rainbow ink pad and my dots and just softly put a few dots in here and there. Create a little bit of atmosphere background around my vase. And then the next step is the little snowflake stamp. And there's that finished vase and the finished card. Again, you can see these online. The next one we're going to do is kind of a geranium vase. Same principle, just a different vase shape, different flower top. What we're going to do is cut out this. So you can see it's got a little bit of a curve to it this time, and a little lip. Open it up, put it on my paper, and I'm going to grab a, let's see, an amethyst ink pad, and this time to fill it in, the tool that I'm going to use to basically paint my base is a fade out rectangle. Oops, let me clean that one though, I think brown might have been the last color I used. Yep. To clean it, I'm just blotting it on a damp paper towel. I'm just going to fill this in. You can overlap to make it as dark as you need to. If you want one side to be a little bit darker, go back and overstamp a couple times. There's my vase filled in. Then to add a little bit to it, I'm going to grab, oops, the large blueberry leaves, but I don't want the amethyst ink pad. I want bright blue ink pad. So here's my blueberry leaves to add a little decoration to my vase. You don't have to fill the whole thing in. Put one along the top like it's the decoration around the rim of the vase. And if you take the stencil away, there is your vase. Excuse me. Then the stamp we're going to use is the geranium, bold geranium stamp. And I'm going to grab my crimson ink pad. And I'm going to stamp a couple of geraniums down at the bottom and create kind of a little bush of them at the top. You can make them as big and bushy as you want. Basically, we've done that. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my green Tombow marker and I'm just going to create kind of a little zigzaggy pattern to create a leaf. You could see that. It's almost like drawing somewhat of a star. Put some there, there, maybe one with each geranium flower head. So I've added some green in there, but you never want to have just one color, so I'm going to take and throw a little bit of blue in each leaf. And I want it to look like it's maybe a little more painted, so I'm going to take a red Tombow marker and I'm just going to hit a few red spots on each geranium. Almost gives it a look of being actually hand painted rather than just stamped. I have that. And then what I'm going to do is go back and get the paper I used as a mask earlier. I'll use this side. I'm going to cover up our vase. Move the markers out of the way. Grab my hunter green ink pad and my blueberry leaves. Oops. Put them off because the last stamp I used was blue. And I'm going to take and stamp a few blueberry leaves coming out of the top of my vase. I'm going to go up here, cover up my geranium, stamp one coming out up there, one there, one down at the bottom, cover that up. So I have a few leaves coming out. And over here that's a little bit of a lost spot, but that's okay, because I'm going to take my green marker and cover in, or color in, my leaves. So I have that. Go back to my blue marker. Again, you want that to be more than one color. And we're going to do one more color on here quick before we do some drawing. Add a little bit of brown. Give it the look of stems. Okay, so I got basically everything stamped and sort of painted with the markers and the stamps. I'm going to go back to my Pilot pen, and again, this is from an office supply store. I'm going to outline my vase. That kind of double line. And go across the top. And then these geranium leaves, just kind of going to follow the outline, put a little vein in them. Do that over here. It's okay if things overlap a little bit. Add a few little stems coming up here and there. And then in the geraniums, I'm actually just going to put a little few loops and half circles to make them look a little more painted and hand drawn. I'm just sort of following around the edge of where I see a little line or a circle. And this one will also be on line so you can see it a little bit closer. And then the next step is my soft gray marker to make it pop. Be careful when you go around the red, because for some reason the gray marker can pick up the red and bleed the color, where it doesn't do that to other colors. Okay, do that. And then I'm going to take a bright blue ink pad and go back and grab my dots. Put a few dots here and there. And my snowflake, and I'm tapping more than once before I re-ink so things are fading in and out. And if you take a look, there is your vase all finished and matted up. Okay, so we have one more thing to do. This one, we're just going to use the stamp to create the vase, or in this case a basket. We're going to go back to our fade out rectangle. I'm going to clean it off, make sure it doesn't have any of the blue on it. And I'm going to grab my brown ink pad. And I'm just going to stamp kind of in a square, overlapping a little bit here and there, create sort of a weave pattern. I'm actually going to take cover up one part of it so I get a little bit of a half line there. Okay, so there I just created a square with the fade out rectangle. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my daisy, my bold daisy stamp. My stamps are a little dirty. These are our demo stamps at a show, so they get used a lot. And my rainbow wing pad. And since I'm going to use yellow, I always clean my stamp first just to make sure I didn't leave the residue of something else on it. And I'm going to take and stamp it several times, even before I re-ink it. So I'm creating almost like a mum again. This time I'm going to put one down here. Make that one a little bigger. So there's my flowers in a basket. Set my rainbow pad aside. Go back to my hunter green ink and that fade out leaf we started with. And what I'm going to do is put one up there, one down there, there. And you always want to have odd numbers. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's good. And then I want to add a little bit more in the way of flowers, but not great big ones. So I'm going to take this stubby, it's a bold daisy stubby, bold flower, back to my rainbow. And I'm going to bounce it between the red and the burgundy and create sort of little cut flowers that sort of match in color but still have a pop to them. We have our little flowers in there. Excuse me. And then the last step before we put all the drawing touches on there is our sprig. Again, this one is a demo stamp, so it's well loved. I take and cover up some of my flowers just so I have a little bit of sprig sticking out. It's almost like baby's breath now. Create a mask. Very simple. You don't have to do anything fantastic or difficult if you have a straight edge of a paper. Oops, I just stamped my finger. That's a very common thing for me to do. And now I have sprigs in there. And now we're going to go in with our fine line pen. And again, trace everything. I'm going to trace around my leaves, line in the middle so I get the veins. And what I'm doing there for the veins is a line, a little zigzag on each side, and then I have the lines for the vein of the leaf. And I'm not tracing the edge of the leaf perfectly. I'm not worrying about that. And that's one of the reasons if you do the double line, if you do go off the edge of the leaf and there's a double line, who's going to be able to know which line was the correct one and which was the one you slipped off the edge? Down here. Okay, we got our leaves outlined. Now for our basket, I'm just going to draw a line around the whole outside of it pretty much. And then everywhere I see a straight line in the basket, I'm going to draw a double line. Let's see, I need another one. So I'll put one there, and one over here. You can add extras if you need to, if they're not there. So we do that. And then in the daisy stamps, I'm going to outline them a little bit. Just to make them pop. Give them that hand-drawn feel. Around this one. So I have that. Everything's all drawn in there. I'm going to go back to my blue, my green, and my brown Tombow marker and just take a little bit of green here and there. Squeaky marker. And again, you don't want to ever leave one color all on its own. So I'm going to add a little bit of blue to my green. You can even put a little bit of blue in the leaves if you want. And I'm going to go back to the brown and just, if you throw a little brown in here and there, it gives it the look of stems behind things. A little brown at the bottom. And then the last step, if I can find it, go back to my dots and my bright blue ink. And just take some dots. Throw some dots in there, and then there's your finished card. And then I want to show you one other quick flower top you can make with the dots. If you had your basket and you wanted a different kind of flower, you take your dots, you take and slam them down, where in everything else we used them in soft backgrounds and things like that. Now I'm just going to take and create a blob. Shake everything. Create some blobs. However big you wanted them to be. Go back to your fade out leaf. This guy. If you put fade out leaves around, you would have flowers. So those are just some fun ideas to create and do your own thing, and that's the April project of the month for Stamps by Judith.